So this is the day after. I'm tired. But here we are. At the C-section, the little baby decided to come early. Not showing her face, but yeah, I'm tired. I'm really tired. I'm exhausted.
Hello everybody, thank you for watching and joining me again on my journey as I plan on trying to be consistent in sharing my story with you guys. So today is more of story time, and it's about my birth story with baby number 4. I was obviously struggling with the fact of whether or not I wanted to really come out and tell this story, but in light of everything that's been happening with black maternal birth and things that have been happening to women of color, I thought it was important for me to come out here and tell my story, because I feel like the more we get our stories out there and the more we get educated and understanding what our bodies are doing in pregnancy and postpartum, I think we would be able to help a lot of women. So this is me sharing my birth story with baby number 4, and I would highly encourage you guys to follow me on YouTube, because the more that this is happening and the more that I've had time to reflect on all my deliveries, I think that I would be doing a more in-depth video in telling my stories from baby 1 all the way to baby 4. Trust me, everything that I've gone through connects. It all connects. But anyway, so to my story on baby number 4, which will be in more detail on YouTube, because you would get to watch the vlogs of me actually going into the hospital different times before I actually gave birth. So I really honestly encourage you guys to try to follow me, subscribe once I have all that information out there for you guys, and let's just spread the word on getting sorry, I had to get that out of the way, on getting more information out there on things that are really happening to women. So anyways, without much rambling, I'm Alache. For those who don't know me, I have a background in entertainment. I used to be a recording artist. I use the word used to because I'm no longer actively doing that, but I do plan on returning back to that someday when life and motherhood allows me to. But in the meantime, I also own a skincare company called Mrs. 82 Company, and we specialize in organic skincare. So baby butters, soaps, body butters, I'm sorry, soaps, and all other good stuff. Feminine care is what we specialize in. And I think once we kind of get into my channel, you'll get to hear more of the story of why I started that and why health is such a big thing for me. So anyways, without rambling any further, let's jump into it. So I found out I was pregnant with baby number 4 shortly before we came into 2020. And to give you a backstory, for those who would not watch the episode before this, last year I had a tummy tuck. And you know, most people, when they hear tummy tuck, they're thinking, oh, she went and she had a mommy makeover. Well, that was not really my story, and I'm not going to really get into that now. You would have to watch my channel to really hear how I got into that. But I had something called diastasis recti from my last baby, and in addition to having diastasis recti, I also had an umbilical hernia. And so in my case, my situation was so bad, my stomach muscles were so blasted apart, to the point that I didn't have a choice but for health reasons. It was basically an emergency surgery to kind of fix things together before they took me out. So that's the backstory of that. So I was probably less than a year I was not probably, I was definitely less than a year from that when I found out I was pregnant with number 4. So the first thing obviously I did was call all my surgeons that had worked on me, my doctors, from the ones that had dealt with me with my hernia. I mean, it was a combined surgery, but I called each and every one of them individually to let them know that I was pregnant and what were the risks to my health or even the babies, given everything that I had been through in the past. And everybody just advised me to obviously go ahead and just enjoy my pregnancy. And we did tests right after New Year's, and just to figure out if everything was going to be okay. And I got the clear that I was good to go. And so I scheduled an appointment with my OBGYN at the time. And it's so funny looking back because I just remembered this yesterday. I've used the same OBGYN for all four kids, but I remember this time around with this baby just trying to schedule an appointment, and I remember them not having or not being able to fit me in for like a month. And I remember just being so furious. So this was like before the pandemic, before any of this craziness started. This is like January, and I'm like, why can't they fit me in? And they're like, oh, I think I even had to like do like new paperwork or whatever. We've moved and we have new patients, we have more patients now, and we have a new system and things like that. And I was like, wow, but I would think that the treatment for returning clients would be like a lot different, given the fact that I've been here with you guys for at least, give or take, 11 years before my first child, because I started out with them as a gynae. After my wedding, I wanted somebody a practice that would be good gynecologists for me and good obstetricians for me down the road when I started having kids, because I didn't know when I was going to start having kids. So I started seeing them from there. But anyways, long story short, they couldn't fit me in. And I remember just for some reason at the time telling my mom, like, I don't like the way I'm feeling right now, and my mom felt like I was being bent out of shape. And I was like, no, I'm going to find another doctor, even though I felt so bad, because I'm the kind of person that once I find, I like to build family around things, if that makes any sense, whether it's my kids' doctors or my doctors or producers when I was singing or what. I like to keep like my team the same. So thinking about the fact that this baby was potentially going to have a different doctor because I wasn't happy with these doctors already, like it made me feel away. So, and I was telling my mom, I'm like, no, because if they treat me this way, I don't want anybody to malhandle me, and then, I don't know what the consequences are going to be in the long term. So that was my reasoning at the time. But anyways, so they couldn't give me an appointment, and I remember having to go out of the country. I was traveling. I wanted to go see my brothers, and I'm like, well, I'm kind of already seeing them. Like, I was like 2.5 months pregnant at the time, and I had never been like all the way to 12 weeks and not had a checkup on a pregnancy, let alone a confirmation. But I went ahead and took my trip, and then when I came back, I got to see them. So for the most part, pregnancy was going okay. Pregnancy was going good. Nothing serious up until like 27 weeks or 28 weeks. I was probably right around like the 7-month mark. And I started getting like this really bad cramps / mini contractions. Not really bad contractions, but I just felt like, okay, these are just Braxton Hicks happening to me. But they were getting so bad, they were uncomfortable at night. And so I called my doctor. And mind you, at this time, I'm already trying to like wrap up projects that I had, because ideally my goal was to rest, finish everything I had to do by end of July. And then be ready for my C-section, which was planned by the second week of August. So that was my plan. Finish everything by July, doing my house, doing all that stuff, and then just rest in August and be ready for baby. This is where we think we have plans, and then things kind of go the other way. So I was getting ready to shoot a video for another project that I was working on, and I remember having to call the directors and be like, we cannot shoot this video, because by 27, 28 weeks, I was already kind of like getting in distress. I was getting these pains at night. It was really bad, and my doctors had me go on bed rest. So I was on bed rest for about maybe 3 weeks. And then somewhere around 32 weeks, I got like this burst of energy. So I took advantage of that and finished whatever it was that I needed to finish at the house. Then fast forward to about maybe 34 weeks, I started to feel exhausted again. I started to feel like I had no energy, and I was getting tired, and I was I just wanted baby to come. So at about 34 weeks, end of 34 weeks into 35 weeks, I lost my mucus plug, which I vlogged about, and you guys should watch that when I drop that video. So I lost my mucus plug, but it was not like a regular losing of my mucus plug. I lost my mucus plug and lost it with blood, and which, like, yeah, a little blood in there, but I was bleeding, like period bleeding. Sorry, this is TMI, but this kind of videos are more informative, and I really can't sugarcoat what happened, but I was bleeding like a period, and and there were blood clots. I was losing like blood clots. So we called my doctors, and they said, go straight to the hospital. So we got to the hospital, and once we got in there, we got checked in. I got plugged to monitors. They noticed that, yeah, I was having a little bit of contractions here and there. I had multiple ultrasounds that day. I had blood drawn, so many things. And mind you, when I left the house, again, I was distressed because 35 weeks, I had all these plans. I was going to pack my hospital bag maybe like a week after that, and I wasn't ready. So I literally had a moment in the closet where I was just crying because now I'm opening boxes and all that stuff, and everything is in packages. I haven't washed her things. I didn't even care about like whatever my hospital supplies were. At that point, I did not care. I did not care. I hadn't done my hair. I remember my hairstylist actually, going off on me like, why would you think you wanted to wait a week before baby? Like, that's not gonna work. So she was literally supposed to come in that day, or the day, no, the week after. But anyways, all that stuff is cosmetic. I didn't care. Like, I was just crying, and my husband just said, let me have a go at the closet. And I literally just, opened packages without washing baby's things, and just like that, dumping stuff in my bag. And he was like, let's go. But when he noticed that like I was having a moment, he let me have my moment. And then once we finally got to the hospital, he was like, okay, we'll bring your bags upstairs if we know baby's coming today. This is 35 weeks. So if that happened, we knew she was going to be preterm, obviously. So we get into the hospital, they're checking me, they're doing all this stuff. I chose, I had not eaten up until that point, and I decided not to eat once I knew I was going to hospital in case I was having the baby. Of course, I've had kids before, so I knew that, C-section, food, water, all that stuff doesn't go. So I decided not to eat. Once we got to the hospital and I got plugged in machines, I was tired, I was in pain, I was exhausted, I was hungry. And obviously they couldn't give me anything, not even really water, but a little bit of ice chips here and there, or little sips, So we were there like all day. I've gone through all these tests. And once they did the ultrasound, they were like, oh, baby looks good, this and that, or whatever. Because I met my doctor at the hospital because she was on call. And they just said, okay, just go home, continue your bed rest, and they were going to see me back at the office. Of which, obviously, by the next day, after I came home, I woke up the next morning and I was like screaming, like literally, it was like red. I had to literally take a picture of the pad because I'm like, I can't make this up. I can't lie about this, but it's one thing from my experience being admitted, trying to explain to them and what they're seeing and all that stuff. So I was like, I'm going to take pictures of everything, the pads, the toilet bowl, everything. I'm taking pictures. And so I'm calling my husband and I'm screaming, and there's, it's just all this stuff going on. And so we called the doctor, and she was like, okay, maybe you just go take a shower, clean up, give it an hour, see if it's maybe just because you got up out of bed and, all this rush or whatever. But anyways, just, check it out and let's see what happens. Call me in an hour. But if this stuff really persists, you really don't need to be calling me. Just go straight to the hospital. There'll be a doctor there on call. So I said, okay. I just kind of wiggled my way around. Maybe 2 hours later, I called her, and I was like, well, I can watch it for today, because obviously with being pregnant in a pandemic, I don't just want to be going into the hospital in COVID-19. So I stayed home that day. I monitored it, and then they said call us first thing on Monday morning and we'll see you at the office. So Monday morning comes, I call the office. There was nothing available, but I was already booked to be seen on Wednesday. So I was like, you know what? I'll wait till Wednesday. And they're like, no. We'll have you come in first thing on Tuesday morning. So, sorry, can't catch myself. Anyway, so but on Tuesday morning, Monday all day, nothing, no bleeding. I stayed in bed, did everything I was supposed to do. Tuesday morning, before going to the hospital, noticed bleeding. So I was like, okay, this is crazy. Like, what the hell is going on? So we got to the doctor, and then when we got there, they tested me, they checked me, and they were like, yep, you have to leave this place now. And because my doctor has seven doctors in the practice that we rotate through, so you have to leave here and go straight to the hospital. And when you get there, they're going to do a non-stress test on you and baby, and they're going to give you steroid shots just in case we have to deliver this baby before your planned C-section, then we'll know that the lungs would have matured enough for her to, breathe on her own or whatever, and minimize the chances of her going to the NICU. So I said okay. So I asked my husband if I could run by the house, because obviously I've been documenting my journey on this stuff, and I didn't have any of the tools I needed. I know sometimes feels like misplaced priority. So I had to go by the house to get my camera. And so we stopped by the house, and then I asked my mom to just get the stuff and bring it downstairs to me, and we headed to the hospital. So when we got to the hospital, I got plugged to my monitors. They came there, they checked me, everything. And this is on Tuesday, I believe, at this time. They checked me. And then that's it. Give me my shots. And after a while, discharged me. Said baby was doing good. And based on the ultrasound, sorry if you hear noise in the background. I have actual other kids. Anyway, so they discharged me and say, oh, based on your ultrasound from Saturday, baby's looking good, heartbeat is looking good, you have to take a second dose of your steroid shots. You have to take a second dose on the next day. So the next day, I go to the office, they do another non-stress on me, and they give me the second dose, and then I go home. And we're supposed to wait for baby to come. Now, this is where the kicker starts. Once we get home, at night, I start feeling pain and contractions. Thursday, before my husband leaves to the office, I was like, you know what? I've been feeling this pain, and I think I feel like it's contractions. And this is how often they were, probably like 15 minutes apart at the time. So he says, okay, just keep letting me know if you get one, I'll time it. So the whole time when I got one, I'll text him, I'll time it. And then by the time we got to like mid-afternoon, getting close to early evening, it was getting more intense. It seemed like it was coming more like 10 minutes apart. I was in pain. And so I called my husband, and he's like, call the doctor. I called my doctor. I told him I think I'm having contractions. I've had kids before. I know what it feels like. And this is really painful. And he says to me, oh, this is usual 35, 36 weeks stuff. Okay? Because at this time now, we're in now 36 weeks. This is usual stuff that happens around this time. I know it's uncomfortable for you, but just, it'll be okay. And then he says air hugs. I was so annoyed. I was so annoyed that I was so dismissed in that moment. Like, air hugs? Are you kidding me? And I have a pretty good threshold for pain. So by the time I'm feeling the pain, like, things are already getting out of control. Anyways, so I stay here. My dad is calling. He's panicking, obviously, because he's overseas, and he's like screaming on the phone, like, what's going on? Why are you still at the house? You know how you are with pain. You need to go to the hospital. And I was like, literally like, this is not the time to be yelling at me, because I'm on my knees at this point. I'm crying. And he got off the phone. He called my husband. So Aldo comes home. And then when Aldo gets here, he now he's like, okay, let's call the doctor. So I was like, I'm not talking to him. I mean, he just told me air hugs, like, what does that even mean? And the whole time I was just like, I was in pain. I remember just crying, and I'm like, I can't make this up. Like, I can, like, I'm like, why would I lie? Why would I lie about this? Like, you can't even make this stuff up. And I kept saying that the whole time. So Aldo calls him and everything. Now, this doctor who was so nice to us the day before, all of a sudden turned to Cookie Monster. Okay, he sounded irritated or whatever. It's like, oh, if you want to bring her in, you can bring her in, but we're not having baby today. It's too early. And basically just like, it was like, this thing is normal. So if at that point it felt like I was just making it up. He was like, bring her in, we'll do a labor check, or we'll do all that stuff, but that's all we can do. So we go to the hospital. We're not sure if we should pack our bags at this time, because now we've been at the hospital 2 times before now. So we didn't take a bag. At this point I was like, because during the day already I had told my mom, I'm like, you know what? Let's wash baby's things. Let's learn from what happened to us the past weekend. So my mom already washed baby's things. My bag was a little bit more organized. Some of my things that I needed were not here, but like I said, I didn't even care about myself like that. I just wanted baby to be okay. So my mom had washed, and we had packed her box, and I was like at peace knowing that this time around at least I packed the things she needed, and if I needed to be at the hospital, even if I didn't take the bags, Aldo could bring it later. So we got to the hospital. They plugged me up to the machines. At this time my contractions are like 6 minutes apart. This is probably like 8 o'clock, at night, 7, 8 o'clock at night. And so the contractions are there, it's getting more intense. And the doctor comes and checks me, and he goes, "Oh, your cervix is like thinning out, blah blah blah." It's like, but you're not ready yet. Your belly even dilated and all that stuff. And yeah, I know this is treacherous and it's painful to mommy at this point, but this is regular 36-week stuff, and you're really just gonna have to go and come back in 3 weeks. But we'll keep you here and monitor you if you want us to. Like, we'll keep you as long as we can tonight, but you really just have to go home and rest. And he left. And then the next thing you know, the nurse is coming and she's trying to discharge me, that the doctor says to go home, blah blah blah. So at this point, Alvin is like, but you guys are looking at the monitor and you guys can see that she's having contractions, and yet you're gonna send her home. And so I'm crying at that point because I'm having really bad contractions. You can see the stuff going up on the screen, but you choose to send me home. So my husband was like, because if I have to come back to this hospital tonight, I'm gonna be effing pissed. Okay, because at this point, like, it doesn't make any sense. You guys can see what's going on. And he kept asking her, like, what sense is this? And he wouldn't even come back to talk to us. So she was now left to our graces. And I just remember crying, and I was like, I'm so annoyed. And she's like, yeah, I can see that she's having contractions, but she's like, this could happen up until, we just don't want baby to be born and go to the NICU and all this stuff. And so I looked at her and I was like, so basically what you guys are doing, you're sending me home. So in the event that something actually happens to me now, I should not even call you guys to let you know that this is how I'm feeling, because you guys are out here sending me home. So she says, oh, we're just going to give you some Percocet for pain, and we're going to give you some sleeping meds. But the sleeping meds, we literally have to give it to you before you walk out the door, because you could fall asleep. And so my husband was like, but I don't understand what you guys are doing. Makes no sense. No problem. So we start going. Mind you, I can barely walk even to the car at this point. I'm having to walk and stop. And this is not the girl that came in like a few days before that could even vlog. There was no vlogging happening at this time. I was in pain. I was crying. And so we finally got downstairs, and I sat with the valet, and then my husband went out to go get the car. And so, sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I had to pause that video. And anyway, so I go downstairs and I'm sitting by the valet. Contractions are hitting me. And I just remember sitting outside that hospital, and I just kept crying. I was like, I'm so annoyed right now. And mind you, the way my body was feeling, this is one thing I'm going to tell people about the power of your mind. Because my body had given up, but now it was like my mind was fighting. My mind was fighting because I knew if I even said words like I'm tired, I'm done, I knew it was going to be it for me. And excuse me if I get emotional, because I've just never been able to tell the story with a straight face. So anyways, I'm sitting there outside the hospital feeling defeated and praying. Literally had my hand on my belly and my hand on my head, and I kept saying, I speak life into my child, I speak life into myself, I cover myself in the blood of Jesus. And I was just praying, and I was like, am I living in like a Black Lives moment right now? Because I had no understanding what had just happened to me. I had no understanding. So I sat there and praying, and then the lady that checked us in at the hospital downstairs at the reception, black lady, walked by. And she was like, oh, is it not time yet? Are you not ready? I was like, I don't know. I couldn't see anybody that was coming. I was just praying. I didn't care who was passing by or anything. I was praying out loud, and I was just praying over myself and my child. And my husband pulls up with the car. We get in the car, we go home. This is where the drama begins. I was like, did they really say they gave me Percocet? Because at that point, I didn't feel like I was on any pain medication. And I just felt like I was blacking in and out. I'm remembering things, but I remember screaming. And my mom ran out of her room. I don't even know at what hour. Because everything I tell you now is like bits and pieces of what I can remember. And I was just screaming, not even thinking about the fact that I had 3 other kids that were sleeping at that hour. But I know whatever was happening to me was like an out of body experience. And I just kept saying, I want my mommy, I want my mommy, help me, please help me, please help me. And she was standing right next to me, which was the funny thing. She was standing right there, and she was like, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And so at about 4 o'clock in the morning, Audu calls the doctor again. At least this part I remember hearing him because it was on speakerphone. And he was just like, if you want to bring her, bring her. So we got back to the hospital. But by this time, I can't even tell you. I thought I walked into the hospital. I was told I was wheeled into the hospital with my head down. But I remember getting there, and I felt like my body felt like it was ready for whoever I was like I was in so much pain. I just remember getting there, and I remember this was so different from the last times because I couldn't even get myself into my dress. And when they took all my stuff off, I saw like the biggest, like I had lost this plug. It was huge. And I just remember saying, I need something for my pain. I need something for my pain. And they were like, yeah, we're coming. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. Because now I have to have a C-section. So then we have to check you. So they lay me on the bed. And they were like, you're 8 to 9 centimeters dilated. Like baby's head is right there. I was like, are you kidding me? I told you guys that I was in labor. You guys sent me home, put me on Percocet and sleeping medication, and told me to go home and come back in 3 weeks. This is after discarding the fact that I have told you guys that I was having upper abdominal pain, lower abdominal pain. I had complained about all these things for weeks. You're gonna send me home and tell me to go and sleep. What if that medication actually knocked me out to sleep? What if, like at this point, like there were so many what ifs. I was so annoyed. And I remember in the middle of my contractions, then somebody comes up with a COVID test trying to stick something up my nose, and I'm like, I'm having a contraction right now, and you're gonna go ahead and start. You could at least let the contraction leave me alone, because it's not like the space between the contractions was that much anyways. Anyway, so they're doing that, and I remember like it burns. They're like, yeah, just give it like 5 minutes. Anyways, at this point, everybody is in uproar. And now the nurses are, you know how gossip goes around. Oh, but she was just here a few hours ago. Why did they send her home? Blah, 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 blah. And then the nurse who came and sent me home, who we literally spent like 5-10 minutes asking her why it was necessary to send me home, had the nerve to come and be like, oh, you know your body. I'm looking like, in this moment, ma'am, you need to give me space. You need to give me space. This is not the time to be playing with me right now. Of course I know my body. I told you guys. Anyways, so all this drama is happening. Anesthesiologist is coming. The OR is getting set up. Husband is getting rushed to go and get scrubs on and all this stuff. And finally they wheel me into the OR. And then when I get in there, they're putting whatever they need to do down my spine to numb me out with pain. And then the doctor comes in, and then we have the baby. And we had the baby, and most beautiful girl, but it was the most traumatic experience for me. I was so traumatized. We had the baby. She's fine. Just a little bit of what even happened, I don't know. I can't tell. I'm gonna have to tell you guys all of that in another video. But I think the reason why I made this video, and it feels like it's such a long video, it's a long video, but I needed to tell this story, because it's one thing when you hear things happening and you feel like you empathize with people. It's another thing when it's right happening to you. I got out of that delivery room and we went into post-anesthesia recovery. I didn't even see the doctor. I remember like, where is this man? I was just there with nurses and all that stuff. I do want to say that I have seen him since at my incision check after baby, 10 days after baby, because I'm not even a month since the baby's been born. I'm literally just 3 weeks since baby has been born. But when I saw him, he apologized to me. he thanked me for having a husband who was so caring, and he said so many good things about Aldo that I'm not going to get into on camera. Um, he told me that that night after the surgery, he went to a chapel to get on his knees and pray. Because I cannot imagine having the liability on the conscience of dismissing somebody when they said that something was bugging them and you dismissed them. And even when you had them come, you just had them come just kind of like, whatever, just come and get it over with. Because I remember when he did show up at my bedside the day after surgery, he went on about how I was a warrior, I was a strong woman, I was all this and I was all that. And now we understand some of the reasons why things were happening to you, the pain you were complaining about. My baby's head was pressed on my bladder. So after surgery, my bladder was basically bleeding. I had to go and get a CT scan. I had a catheter in for like 3 days or so. I had, because, my stomach was so small. Also, you couldn't really tell I was pregnant. Baby had torn my muscle, which he got to tell me that at my incision check. So, and I was like, so would I have really made it to 38 weeks? Because baby would have still been growing. He was like, I don't even want to talk or think about what would have happened. Because even if you guys had made it, you would have probably been in surgery for 3 to 4 hours after getting damage fixed. We already had a lot of complications as it was. But here's the thing. There's so many women out there today that are not alive to hear that apology. What if I didn't even make it for you to tell me that you were sorry? You know what I mean? And if you never opened me up, how would you have known that all this stuff was happening? Because the whole time when I was telling you guys this was happening to me, the only thing that I was being told, we've done an ultrasound and baby looks good. But there was stuff that was happening inside that if I was not on a surgical table at that time, you would never know. So, to all the stories out there of black women being dismissed in maternal care, in pregnancy, in postpartum, these things are happening. I never doubted them before, but after it's happened to me, I know these things are happening. I think I would not be doing justice to myself or to any other mothers out there by not telling my story. So I really do hope that this begins to open the conversation. And women, please, I remember a nurse saying to me when I was admitted the weekend before, when she when they discharged me, not on the delivery day actually, but the week before. I remember the nurse, she was so nice, and she was like, I know they're sending you home, but please, if you feel anything, listen to your gut and come back. So, that's the advice I'm going to leave to every mom out there. Don't feel like you're disturbing anybody. Don't feel like you're nagging. You're paying for these services. Listen to your body. Listen to your body. Because half the time, the sooner we catch these things, the better. Listen to your body. If you feel a kind of way, call your doctors. And always remember to affirm yourself positively. Speak positive over yourself, over your child. If you have to fight with your mind, even when all hope seems lost, fight with your mind and speak positive things into your life and over your child. I am a product of God today, and I am a product of the grace of God, and I do not take any of this for granted. And I truly, truly hope that we begin to take women of color serious in medical science. Like I said, I've personally had a word with my doctor. I have forgiven him because I saw that the trauma in his eyes. I know that I could see that he felt if something had gone wrong, I don't think he would have survived his mind dealing with him for the rest of his life, and I forgave him for that. But that does not, like I told everybody around me, that's not going to stop me from sharing my story. The story just ends without me necessarily leaving the gap that he was a bit of a butthole to me. But please listen to your body, understand your body, pay attention to all the signs, and take care of yourselves. I will be telling more stories as we go along. things that happened in our hospital stay. Today was just literally a birth story, and I think I've rambled for almost 30 minutes because there's no way to really minimize this. But you guys really, really should follow me on YouTube. Like I said, I'm vlogging the experience. I will tell you guys more stories. I mean, there's more to come. There's more stories to come. Trust me. Even after baby was born, there's a whole other crap of drama that happened before we left the hospital. And we were there for a good 4 days. So we got a whole experience full. I mean, the experience was nice on some levels, but there were some other pieces of things that happened here and there. But yeah, follow me. I plan on using this space to educate moms and women as best as possible. Hopefully, everything's not always going to be this heavy, but I really, really wanted to come on here and just tell my story because I don't know who is going to help. And I encourage everybody else that's out there, if you've experienced something, I think the more we share our stories, the more we're going to be able to help other ladies. All right, thank you guys so much, and I'll see you back next time.